Greetings, B-movie aficionados.
Hello, welcome to A Couple of Flicks. I am Tristan.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Zach.
All right, and today we are going to again talk about some movies. But before we do, have either of you guys did either of you guys watch anything in the last couple of weeks that you want to mention or talk about or bring up?
I've seen a few things actually that I finally watched The Queen's Gambit. I don't know. Did I mention that last time? I don't know.
I think I meant to. Yeah, I think I meant to bring it up, but I never did. Anyway.
I watched it. I loved it. That was fucking great.
Yeah.
Such a good series. They better not do a sequel shit, but I don't think they will. With how it ended. And then I saw what was it? In and of Itself. Have you seen that one on Hulu?
I've heard of it. Somebody was telling me about it today, actually, and somebody was telling me about it yesterday too. Quite a few people I know are watching it, so it's like, oh, I guess I better get to that one then.
It's fantastic. I cried multiple times during it. It was fantastic. Yeah.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really hard to explain without just sounding kind of either pretentious or because the general of it is it's a videoed one-man show type thing with a little bit of magic, but it's a lot, with the message and everything is a lot more than that and everything.
Yeah, that's another thing I keep hearing about it is like people keep saying it's really hard to explain, like, and then they don't say anything about it. So it's like,
because explaining it kind of might turn people off on it. If you actually go in with it as an open mind, it was really, really good.
Excellent.
And then I also watched. I did watch. Well, fuck, what was it? I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I finally watched that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know what were your overall thoughts on that, or have you been able to kind of gather them?
I don't know what I saw.
Okay.
I mean, that's typical of Kaufman, but this one was just a little like I guess until I don't know. You're just again Kaufman strange. I mean,
yeah. There came a point where you kind of felt like, wait a minute, I don't think I'm following this anymore. Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I've experienced with his movies multiple times. Not just the films he's directed, but I mean, I can tell you the first time I watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, like the first time I watched that was a really frustrating experience because it took me until about halfway through the film to even realize what the hell was even going on in it. And then like once I realized what was going on in it, I was like, oh man, like I kind of just want to start this over, but I kind of want to finish it too. And I finished it and I ended up liking it, but I was just like, it made me kind of frustrated to like feel like I just was clueless throughout the whole thing the first time I watched it. So.
Yeah, I thought that was one of his more straightforward ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, the rest of it, that's probably one of his most simple films. Yeah. Like adaptation, like I still don't understand that one.
I love that one. But I don't get most of it.
Yeah, I'm not quite ready to give up on that one yet, but
I just like it because I'm an aspiring writer. But
I love that. It's just I get so lost on the whole twin thing. I have a weird thing about twins. There's just something about like it's I think that's the reason why the movie Dead Ringers, which is a movie about twins, kind of like wigs me out. I get like discombobulated thinking about the idea of like a double of me, like if somebody existed that looked just like me or shared my DNA. Like I just get really intense like emotions when I start thinking about that stuff. And And so I'm watching a movie like Adaptation, which is like about twins, which is I mean, that's a real thing. But then it starts dissecting its own narrative, and then I'm like, oh geez, ugh.
Yeah, I like
But
that head game shit.
yeah. But I'm thinking of ending things. Yeah, that movie, I mean, I think of it kind of like a fan fiction sort of, except it's like an old janitor who's like depressed, writing a fan fiction about his life and about his ex-girlfriends, and like that's, I guess, kind of what's at the core of it. But he's not writing it, of course. He's just kind of more imagining it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, I liked it up until they left the parents' house, and then
Yeah.
that's when it started getting wacky and
Yeah.
confusing, and I couldn't follow after.
Yeah. Oh yeah, when they get the ice cream, but then they don't even eat most of it. And they like, then they go to like a school, and then it's like, then suddenly, like, because throughout the whole movie there's like that whole thing with the janitor that's happening at the same time, which the first time
just cuts to him every now and then. Yeah.
Yeah, but it happens kind of sporadically.
Yep.
And so like a lot of people who watch it for the first time, like that kind of stuff will happen, and they'll be like, whatever that is, they won't even really kind of even follow that aspect. But then that's kind of what the movie becomes. Yeah, it's what the movie comes to be about. It starts kind of following that primarily at a certain point, and it sort of ties the narratives together, but like it doesn't do it in a very straightforward way, so it makes it really hard to kind of digest, but I still felt like, I guess, just the idea, like I was still sort of captivated by what was going on, and just how bizarre and otherworldly it was. And I also loved the shots of like the snow, and how like the snow kind of coming toward the camera and like toward the window, and how like it's like just these little brief little snowflakes that just kind of disappear into the dark. And then like the guy is talking about how like his life is kind of like life is sort of like that. And then it showed that visual image, and it's like, oh wow, that was kind of, I don't know, just kind of gets you thinking. So
yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it's a lot to sort of digest. So
yeah,
but I really like that movie. What about you, Zach? Have you watched anything?
I saw that The Little Things, the new HBO Max Warner Brothers one.
Okay.
It wasn't that great.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I was expecting a lot more from that cast. You got Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, Rami Malek.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't that great either. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a shitty 7, pretty much.
Really?
Yeah. I was disappointed in that one.
It's a bummer.
And then, other than that, I started the Tremors series. So I watched 1 and 2 so far.
Excellent.
Nice.
I love both those movies.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the second one, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they're up to 7 of them now.
Yeah, I think at one point they had a TV series too.
Yeah.
I liked it when it was just like those first 2.
The
movies.
First 2 are great.
Yeah. I have like really fond memories of like watching both of those movies like one after the other with my dad. And
I think
I
watched them back to back a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah, they would like play on TV a lot as like double feature.
Yeah.
And I like both those movies fit really well together. Like I read a lot of reviews about the second movie. Like a lot of people think that the second movie isn't as good as the first, but I actually think the second movie, like in some ways, is better than the first film. Like I think they're both good, but I think, and they're both like equally entertaining, and they both have like their strong points and their weak points. And I think that there's certain things that the second film does better than the first film. So
Yeah, I liked him equally.
Yeah. Then I think I saw the third one, and I didn't really like that one as much. And then I think I might have seen the fourth film on the Sci-Fi Channel like one time, and I don't really remember it. And I didn't see any of the rest of them. So,
Well, that's pretty much all I've watched.
yeah. I watched a couple of really weird horror movies. I watched, and both of them were found footage films. The first one I watched was Be My Cat, a film for Anne, which is like a found footage film about this guy who is wanting to make a movie starring Anne Hathaway. And it turns out he kind of has some stalkerish sort of qualities, and the film is sort of from his perspective, and it's about him sort of like on his sort of quest to create like a demo reel tape to send to Anne Hathaway. And it's quite metaphysical because the guy who directed this movie is also like the main actor in it, who's sort of who the film is sort of following. And he's actually pretty intense. You know, the way he sort of plays this character, he plays it pretty straightforwardly. And so in a way it's kind of like performance art, I guess, but it's like performance art like in the form of like a horror movie. And so then he meets up with these various women who are auditioning to play as a Anne Hathaway lookalike. And like from there on it gets very psychological and gets like pretty dark and pretty messed up, but also like pretty interesting too. And there is kind of an odd sense of humor to it as well. Like I enjoyed it quite a bit. I actually thought it was pretty interesting, but it was like pretty scary too. And the director is an interesting guy. He's kind of a, I don't know, he's kind of a political guy, but I don't know. I liked his style though. I liked what he did with this, with that one, you know. So I recommend that one. And both these movies are on Amazon streaming. And then the second one I watched, it was actually kind of a similar movie because it's a found footage movie, and the main actor in it is also the director. So it's actually pretty similar to that movie in both those ways, you know. And it's actually quite a bit more messed up than Be My Cat, and I wouldn't really recommend that with this one as much. I couldn't quite figure out what the official title was. I think it's My European Dream, but on Amazon streaming it has like a retitled. It's retitled as The Descent into Darkness. And basically, like, it's kind of like, without spoiling the plot too much, it's basically if Borat became like a really, really messed up horror movie, you know. And I don't really want to give away like what happens because it's pretty out there, and it surprised like even me, to be honest. So like I wouldn't really recommend it to most people. But I kind of wonder about it being on streaming, because like I sort of worry that like the wrong type of person will watch it, like thinking that it's just like some kind of like normal crazy horror movie, and like find out that it's actually like something a lot more like serious and messed up than that. Like it was actually really well made, but it's a pretty like heavy duty kind of horror movie, you know. So I wouldn't really recommend it to anybody unless like it's somebody who's like has a pretty iron sort of stomach, I guess. So
Both sound pretty interesting.
yeah, I'd recommend them both as far as being well-made horror movies. So those were the two most interesting things I watched recently. So anyway, so on to the three films. So the first film that we're going to dive into was your pick, Nick, right?
Yep.
All right.
It was Meet Dave.
Mhm.
An Eddie Murphy film.
Yes.
And I chose this one because, again, I think I mentioned it last time why I chose it was because I thought it was Pluto Nash when we were going to watch Pluto Nash.
Mm.
Thought it, just because it's a Eddie Murphy Eddie Murphy space-ish type movie. Like, I initially thought that it was totally in space because, again, I didn't really do any research into it. I thought it was Eddie Murphy. So what it is a bunch of aliens, tiny aliens in a spaceship in the shape of Eddie Murphy. And
Yeah.
I thought initially the movie was just them floating around doing space stuff in an Eddie Murphy ship. And I also thought all the little people, controlling the spaceship were just Eddie Murphys, just Nutty Professor styled, uh, him acting a bunch of different roles, but it's just one Eddie Murphy, him being the commander.
Mm.
So it was completely different than what I thought it was going to be, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
me too, actually.
Yeah.
Which is okay,
So yeah, some of the other people were like, Ed Helms, Judah Freelander,
Yeah.
Elizabeth Banks was in it, but she was a human.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Kevin
yeah,
Hart.
go on. Yeah, that was
Yeah, so there's a
I
bunch of
appreciated that.
a bunch of little aliens and a regular sized Kevin Hart.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, well, at least at the beginning of the movie, it's primarily sort of showing. I mean, it is kind of like showing what's going on inside of the vessel, I guess you'd call him. But it is also kind of showing sort of how he behaves outside, which is pretty chaotic. It's this Eddie Murphy in pure chaos mode. So
Yep. So it starts out with a meteorite crashing to Earth into Elizabeth Elizabeth Banks's kids' room,
yeah,
and it's some type of, I don't know. They didn't really explain what the fuck was going on with this or what their real plan was. Honestly, with this
yeah,
weapon, it was like a weapon. This meteorite was like a ball that sucks, and they didn't really explain. Again, it sucks water in and does something with it, and you notice it
yeah,
because it lands in his fish bowl, and it
yeah,
starts sucking the water out of his fish bowl, and then he's a few weeks later, I assume, because he wins some type of science award that just by showing it off or whatnot for being a meteorite. But the Eddie Murphy ship crash lands into this the Statue of Liberty Island to go around to search for this weapon. And that's basically, the basic plot is Eddie Murphy and his crew are all searching for this weapon to destroy Earth. Again, don't
yeah.
know, doesn't really explain why. They're just
Well,
to save their. It's
there ends up
supposedly.
being.
It's not, you go ahead. I don't know what.
I mean,
if you
there
have-
actually ends up being some conflict over it.
Yeah.
At some point, actually within the Dave vessel, which I thought was like what I mean. I actually I thought that this movie. Okay, well, I guess my overall thoughts of this movie was that I thought the stuff with Eddie Murphy acting like a robot who was being controlled by a bunch of miniature people. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I thought that even though the characters were kind of in dumb mode because you have things like him standing up and emitting robot noises.
Yeah. When trying to speak, in the first time.
Very obviously a non-human entity.
Mm-hmm. And he was
But
trying to right when he got there, he was trying to mimic someone smiling, and he was just
and it was the creepiest smile ever.
Yeah.
But so he's going through all these crazy hijinks, and he's he's hanging out with this girl in her apartment, even though she ran him over, and like or hit him with her car, and he like sings like a Bee Gees song at one point, and like acts all funky and weird, like not like a normal human being in the least. And she's like, oh, how interesting. And like she gets more interested in him the more bizarre he acts, which is kind of probably not how a normal person would behave. If a normal person in real life hit a person and then invited them inside and the person started singing to them, like I would probably be worried about that person, but in this movie, of course, the characters are in dumb mode, which is fine because it's a family movie and that's typically how these things go. And I thought that like Eddie Murphy played really well with the other actors and did a pretty good job. But once the whole like, oh yeah,
no, you can finish, yeah.
But what I was just gonna kind of quickly say, once it started getting into the stuff inside of his like body with the war or the conflict going on, that's when the movie kind of got really confusing for me, and that's when I sort of, I guess, kind of tuned out.
Oh, really?
I thought
mentally. It was interesting.
I just got lost, I think.
It didn't make any. They didn't really explain it well.
Yeah, that's the problem.
They didn't explain like what I was saying with the weapon. They didn't explain what it does, or like all I got was they had to destroy Earth to save their planet for some reason. They didn't really explain why.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there was a lot of just things they didn't really explain.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest problem, is that the movie, at least in my opinion, didn't really make very much sense. Yeah. Even though but they did have a pretty good thing going at the beginning, when they were first sort of, yeah.
And also I thought Eddie Murphy's acting in this was phenomenal.
Yeah,
because
agreed.
of the robot shit. Like he had like almost zero expression when he was doing his spaceship. But emoting and reacting good with no emotion somehow. Like I was confused on like unless they did some like deep fake type shit as well. Like he was literally just like good acting of some like straight face like a robot, but emoting, because then it would cut back into his head of Eddie Murphy actually acting and doing shit normally. So I thought that was really well done by Eddie Murphy.
Yes. Yeah, no, Eddie Murphy actually was pretty good in this. Like he actually was pretty committed to actually playing two very different kind of characters.
Yeah, I mean the yeah.
So
yeah, so
that's impressive.
Yeah, so Eddie Murphy gets hit by Elizabeth Banks. Somehow, of course, just by happenstance, just plot convenience really is that the kid has the thing.
I mean, there's no other way to say it.
It's just plot convenience. It's the kid has the ball, he's after it.
Yeah. Do you want to read a plot summary or?
And then
oh, okay.
I'm just trying to figure out where to go. It's like, so I didn't get whether so he was low on energy the whole time. I wasn't sure if it was because he got hit by the car or was just because of the crash landing. They didn't really. I missed it because they said it maybe briefly. So he was he was on a time limit the whole time. And then also for another confusing part was they didn't really explain why, but all the aliens, and I think they're from Nil. They're called Nilians.
Yeah.
They were starting to adapt to human, they were aliens. They were acting all, alien more straightforward, Spocky type, alienish. But then they started, developing human emotion type behaviors and stuff like that. They didn't explain. They had something's weird's going on. There's stuff happening. They were talking this is the doctor of the thing, and take a look into it. They don't really explain it ever.
Yeah, I mean, but they certainly talk a lot about it.
Yeah.
So they just, like you said, they never go into detail, which, although, to be honest, that's something a lot of modern movies do too, is they talk a lot about something, but they never actually go into detail about what that thing is. I mean, it's not trying to attack Marvel movies or anything, but it is something they do tend to do with those movies. And, well, okay. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about that, but you get the point. Like, it is kind of annoying that they do that in this movie, but it's something that I see in a lot of movies that people love and adore, and so I don't want to I guess I don't want to rag on this movie too much for that,
Right.
like, because I could do that with everything.
Yeah, and so, and I also like that the way they named it was they looked up the most, like, when Elizabeth Banks asked him his name. Like one of the people inside the ship was like, they looked up the most common names and it was Ming Chang.
Ming Chang.
So we said, yeah, my name is Ming Chang, and then she's like, Ming Chang, you look more like a Dave. And he's like, oh, that's my first name or whatever, Dave Ming Chang.
Dave Ming Chang.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way he said that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Dave Ming Chang, because Eddie Murphy has that soft voice.
Yeah. And so it continues him looking for the meteorite, which he realizes Elizabeth Banks' kid's head. So he starts going to the school, but the bully of the kid, Elizabeth Banks' kid, steals it from him. And Eddie Murphy shows up as a substitute teacher. He does a funny little fucking probably some type of like a fucking printer with
some
chocolate.
Advanced he writes out some advanced formula that's like too complicated for the kid to even follow.
And he says this is they were like, yeah, let's give him something simple, and it's like just some fucking crazy fucking thing.
Yeah, and so then while all the kids are sitting there trying to do that and trying to solve that, because apparently in this world, if you write out a complicated problem on the board, it doesn't matter how complicated it is, the kids will just try to solve it in the world of Meet Dave. So while they're doing that, Meet Dave, or what's the guy's name? Dave Ming Chang brings the kid out and it's like, give me the rock. And he's like, oh, the bully kid has it, which at that point, the whole plot could have been resolved. He could have gone in there at that moment in time and talked to the bully and brought him out and be like, you have something that belongs to me. You can either give it to me now or we can take it up with the principal. And the end.
Yeah, but the thing was, I will give he confronted the little kid and he said that the after class though, and the bully was already gone apparently. So they did go to the romping grounds and he wasn't there. He stopped a robbery. He chucked a guy across the store and bent a gun, and but there's some festival that was happening, and he said, "Yeah, he's in our neighborhood. He'll be there."
They go to like a fair or like a and there's like a romantic. This movie decides.
There's like a love triangle kind of thing going on.
Yeah. Once they started to wedge that into the movie, I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah. And I did like that. I did like so like they made there was that Bee Gees reference, like because of the outfit he initially was wearing. So he goes, "Oh, we're inconspicuous in this because it's that thing of like, oh, radio waves. The only thing that they got from way out in the space of the only transmission they received was like assuming a Bee Gees thing."
Yeah.
So he goes to Old Navy and has this whole welcome to Old Navy. He thinks it's just a regular greeting. It's just welcome to Old Navy. And he copies money, starts pooping it out. He just starts getting money and pooping it out.
He scans like a $20 bill and then he goes into the bathroom and starts pooping out money. And that's why, so this movie kind of tripped me out a little bit because I so there was a joke in okay, so I watched this okay, so both this movie and The Love Guru have a joke about pooping out coins, but in The Love Guru it's like said really briefly. It like I forget exactly what happened. Mike Myers says, "Oh, dig in there. Hope hope you find some coins or something like that."
Okay,
And then
yeah.
in this movie, Eddie Murphy literally defecates coins out. And I don't know,
That's
like it
funny,
just
yeah.
gave me a weird,
I
like it
missed
just
that,
tripped me. I
yeah.
was like, what the heck? Anyway, I don't know. I just it was maybe it's probably not even worth thinking about, but I just thought it
Yeah.
was interesting.
Let's see.
Anyway.
So they're at the festival. You know, him and
Mm.
his mom, the kids, him, Elizabeth Bank, and the kid are there
Yeah.
doing fair stuff. I like
Yeah.
that. I liked how they were going on rides, and like the ship was like, of course, completely emotionless, but everyone inside
Yeah.
was like going, ah, yeah, woo. And
Yeah.
like they did that wall sticking spinny thing, and everyone was just like on the inside of the ship, stuck to it, freaking out. And so
Yeah.
that
That
was a
was funny.
cute gag.
Yeah, I agree. I was like, okay, I can give you some credit there. Mm.
Yeah, and there was that hot dog eating contest and shit too.
Oh yeah, with the horrible CGI where Eddie Murphy's literally shoving hot dogs into his mouth. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah. And then eventually after that he has to go and take a shit out 86 hot dogs or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which was a funny little bit too. Is like plop 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 plop,
Yeah.
and there was just an old guy next to him in the stall reading a newspaper, and he's just like, show off.
Yeah.
Like old man incontinence.
Yeah. While Dave is pooping out all the hot dogs.
So they eventually find the bully, or Dave, whatever his name is, whoever's.
Yeah. Dave Ming Chang.
They find the bully. They get the meteorite back. And I
Yeah.
thought this was a little nice nod. He was able to telekinetically grab it, because it's like, oh, okay, that was weird, but it comes back later. I didn't know that it would come back later in the movie.
Yeah, who knew? Yeah. But yeah, he does get the diamond.
Yeah, and then like number 2, like they were all named, like all the crews were just named numbers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and they all go through their own arcs too.
Yeah, Ed Helms didn't really though, like besides
No.
being the bad guy arc.
Yeah.
He like right when they got it, Eddie Murphy still continues to hang out with, and because he's they're getting human emotions. But Ed Helms like, we got the thing, let's bail, and he's like, no. Eddie Murphy just wants to hang out more with the kid and the mom, and
Yeah.
they do they do one of the carnival big games, chuck balls at bottles, knocks them.
Yeah.
Like his first one was shitty because the guy that operates the arm was in the bathroom, and then the next one was like full power, and like it goes like all the way back and then knocks Eddie Murphy out, or the ship out, like it just loses all power and stuff. And I don't know, they wake up in the hospital. They do an MRI, like a little MRI gag. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
magnetic, and just some stupid fucking shit
He
like
like flies at the thing, and then he says something stupid. And he's stuck to it. And he's like, ugh, and he says something dumb.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I
What did he
forgot, I
say?
still have some pennies.
Oh yeah, that was it. It's like, okay.
But yeah, they still stay even though the mission's complete. That they got it. They have to, they're running out of time. They gotta chuck the ball in water to destroy Earth. But Eddie Murphy's like, no, let's hang out more.
Yeah, I don't want to destroy Earth.
Yeah, and I liked how they were, the other guy, like the I forget what number he was, but the one that started going gay, like started going like the gay route. That was hilarious.
That was pretty funny actually.
Like they were at like just a bar club thing, and Eddie Murphy was shittily dancing, and then the gay one comes out and is like, "Let me show you how it's done," and then starts doing a crazy salsa dance and everything.
Yeah. And then like later on in the movie, she makes reference that like no straight man can ever dance that good or something like that.
Yeah. When it's finally revealed that there were aliens inside the ship, is like, oh, that makes sense because no straight man could dance like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and at that bar scene, it was also funny that everyone operating like the mouth head because they were drinking starts getting super drunk off whatever they were drinking.
It was like one of those kind of like, whoa.
And then
some good gags.
And then there's just the sub B plot of the police trying to figure out what crashed into the Statue of Liberty Island. They make a mold. Like one of the guys is like a conspiracy alien type dude, and one's a lazy cop that doesn't give a fuck. But they make a mold of Eddie Murphy's face, and then they make a "Have you seen this man?" posters, which leads Eddie Murphy to get arrested, which then leads to Ed Helms causing a mutiny, which then leads to Eddie Murphy, or the ship at least. It's hard to explain who's Eddie Murphy and between the ship and Eddie Murphy, but Ed Helms is in control of the ship now in the police station and just starts blasting his fucking way through the police station and to escape so he can destroy Earth. Ed Helms wants to destroy Earth.
So this at this point, that's like it was about when Ed Helms kind of took control that I sort of lost track of what was going on.
And then there was the part where Kevin Hart he escapes. I don't know how, somehow he escapes and like falls in the conspiracy theorist cop's coffee. And so he that cop is like kind of playing the other dumb cop, like let's go and try and help this or get this guy, but he's trying to help him really. And then Eddie Murphy and his love interest inside the ship get sneezed out. Like that's their ejects, I guess. They like sneeze them out. And there's a little scene of them running around the streets, dodging cars and shit like that. And and it's almost nearly the end at this point, but there was like so Ed Helms gets to like the docks, chucks the thing in, and but Eddie Murphy's like, while they were, they climb back in the ship and retake the ship over.
Kind of a mutiny happens.
A reverse mutiny.
I forget what they say. They say, "I am Dave," I think.
They have, "I am Dave Ming Chang."
I am Dave Ming Chang. I am Dave Ming Chang. It's supposed to be like I am Spartacus, but I am Dave Ming Chang. Which is kind of funny.
And then I laughed at the gay one saying, "I am Johnny Dazzle, and I am fabulous." He's like,
what like what he says something. I want my own identity or whatever.
Yeah, I'm my own person.
And that's funny.
And then he's basically out of energy. Apparently, like they're out of energy the whole time.
And it's like, oh, whoops, who knew?
So it's like Ed Helms is like, so you have one choice. You can either save Earth or save yourself by, they save Earth by retracting the ball back, or save Earth or save themselves by using the rest of their energy to blast out of Earth. And Eddie Murphy chooses of course to save Earth.
Of course,
everyone.
Spoiler alert for people who haven't seen Meet Dave and may want to.
Oops. But but everyone agrees because they like having these human emotions and stuff.
Yeah, which is a pretty pure-hearted message.
Yeah, because
kind of.
they're always making fun of these. They're like, oh, these gargantuan are idiots and whatnot,
Yeah.
and then they have a change of heart. Oh, they're not so
It's
bad. They're cool.
yeah, we have to embrace their goodness, which is kind of a Care Bears message, but whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's what they want to do with Meet Dave.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy was like, I want to make a good-hearted movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
Yeah, I don't want to make that sequel to Norbit.
No. And then it just ends with them blasting off, basically getting out of there.
But yeah, that's about it.
Well, there is that scene where the reveal scene of after everything was saved, like Eddie Murphy's like mouth just like fully opens and like the tongue is like a platform, and then walking off, and they're showing their little people to everyone, and
yeah, that was cool. And then
one thing that there's just a little plot hole thing that I was like so confused about is the like the way they repowered him after him saving Earth and chucking the ball out of space was just a taser, a regular taser repowered it fully.
Yeah,
like because he was starting to blast off, but then got caught in a net.
Yeah,
and then the escape pod was just in a shoe, and they still got away. This is a little thing that bothered me at the end, but whatever.
Yeah, that kind of annoyed me too. Like because they did kind of indicate that, and
that they were out of power. Like that's the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like
so like, what was the point?
A regular taser could fully repower this alien ship.
Yeah, it's like, what was the point of even establishing that threat if it's not even a threat? It's like, it's kind of just, we can just do this.
Yeah,
it's dumb. But whatever. What can you do?
They kind of set it up with them, clear.
They did.
But that's a whole different. That's a lot more power than a taser, I assume.
Yeah,
I give that more credit than just a police taser fully powering him up again.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, well, and that's kind of it, really. Like,
yeah. And I'll give my impressions. I didn't mind it, honestly. I thought it was honestly way. Not, it wasn't like amazing, but way better than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
It's a nice little flick that I had nothing really wrong with it, honestly. Like, it was an interesting concept. I thought Eddie Murphy, like again, the Eddie Murphy acting, stone cold as the robot, but delivering fucking weird and somewhat just being that weird stoic, but also not somehow. Like, don't know how he did it. Like, it was real good face control. I thought it was good as far as something watchable, at least not like anything crazy. So I'd like honestly like give it a 2.5, 3, maybe even. If you just want to watch something with your kids, if you have kids, that's a nice little uplifting movie of because it was like you should be proud of being different kind of thing.
Yeah,
a good message for kids to learn.
I do agree. This is actually a pretty good kids movie, pretty accessible type of kids movie, considering
it wasn't that comical there wasn't that many like jokes or anything, but it was still good to, watch.
I think I kind of wish it had been funnier. I mean, I had some gripes with it, but I did like the first half. I will say I really did enjoy Eddie Murphy's, and I like Eddie Murphy, as like I like his acting a lot just in general. So of course, like I enjoyed what he gave to this movie, and I liked the kind of physicality he had as the robot in the first half. Well, I mean throughout the whole movie, but particularly in the first half because it was focused on it. I kind of enjoy watching actors act like robots. There's just something interesting about that. Christy Swanson does it in a pretty interesting way in the movie Deadly Friend, and I kind of like Eddie Murphy's performance in this movie kind of reminded me of Christy Swanson's in Deadly Friend. It's like it's a little too robotic, but still funny anyway. Um, and I also like the fact that this movie kind of had a little bit of a 90s quality rather than like
Yeah.
a two-
Oh yeah.
considering that it was made in the 2000s, it didn't feel like a movie made in the 2000s. It had
I mean, besides,
like
I
a
would say
more
besides like the visuals and like it just
yeah,
was nice. It was nice, like nicely well done, and but
yeah,
the themes were definitely 90s.
yeah. The visuals were definitely more sophisticated than a lot of 90s films. It wasn't really until the plot sort of got a little bit too sort of, I guess, I don't know, once there was just all, once it got into the conflict stuff, like inside of the Dave robot or the Dave vessel, that's kind of where this film sort of lost me, because I don't know, like there were just there was it got to a point where I was hoping that it would maybe like take the comedy further, or maybe like try to kind of like display like a little bit more of like Dave maybe trying to adapt to Earth norms, because they worked really well in the first half of the movie.
Mhm.
But in the second half, it kind of becomes a really strange sort of like action movie where they're still trying to do that stuff on Earth, where like it's showing Eddie Murphy act like a robot, but while it's doing that, it's kind of more focused on what's going on inside the robot or vessel or ship or whatever, which is cool, but
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't
Like,
what I wanted at that point.
I mean, I kind of liked that stuff, like of course the mutiny, and then like, but it didn't really explain why. Again, it didn't explain why they or what was going on in their home planet. They just had to destroy Earth to help their home planet.
Yeah,
It didn't explain
yeah,
how or why taking all the water. Like, what the fuck was all that about? I don't know. It was just
yeah. It was a little bit vague, you know. So there were like some plot holes here and there that I kind of was a little bummed out about. You know, if I want to be absolutely critical, I
yeah.
guess. But
I
having
mean,
said that,
I wouldn't
yeah,
necessarily say plot holes. It's just plot not explained. Like,
yeah. I guess that's kind of really more what it is. Yeah. Having said that, though, like, I mean, I think overall this was, you know, pretty enjoyable. I think I was in the right mood when I watched it. I was expecting it to be sort of, I guess, aggressively sort of saturated with gags,
yeah, I was
and
too.
they played yeah, and they played it a little bit, they played it more low key than I expected. There were some things that still didn't really quite make sense, like the whole like sharpening of the pencil thing. It was like, that
I
was
think,
just dumb.
yeah,
And
I think it was just a gag. Yeah.
yeah, and like there were some other things too that I could have done without. But overall though, they actually kept it more like physically oriented, and physical comedy can go a long way if you're in like the right mood for that kind of thing. And when I watched this, you know, it was kind of after it, this was the last one I watched out of out of the three films
Yeah,
that we're
me
going to
too.
talk about. And at this point I was kind of like, I kind of was tired of watching like gross movies.
Yeah.
And like I had also watched The Love Guru, and like I was kind of just like ready to like watch something that was like kind of simpler and not so like aggressively like vulgar, you know.
That is what this was.
Yeah, this movie ended up being a much more gentle type of movie for the
showed
type of film it
the
was.
showed the good side of
But
humanity. Like, I
yeah,
like the little scene where he had to, like, power down with a homeless
mm,
guy, and the homeless guy,
yeah,
gave him the blanket, and Eddie Murphy was like, "Oh, this guy has nothing, yet he gives us this blanket." It was like,
yeah,
these humans aren't so bad after all."
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there were little things like that that were
Yeah.
charming, you know. And also like, I mean, I know like a lot of gay people tend to get all freaked out by like stereotypical humor and stuff like that. It doesn't really bother me. I don't feel like this film was trying to portray him as like a bad person or in a negative way. Like, yeah, they did use like stereotypical humor, but like it wasn't like in a mean-spirited way. It was kind of more just in a lighthearted kind of silly way, and it was kind of more celebratory rather than like demeaning. So
Right.
like that stuff didn't even bother me. Like
And
I
I
don't
will,
know, like-
and I'll say on that note is that I love those characters. I always think they're some of the funniest ones, even if
yeah.
I can't really say if they're offensive or not in a lot of the movies and shows because
Mm.
I'm not, I'm not gay. So, but I always think they're hilarious. Like some of the more funny characters in those movies and shows, just because of their attitude and their wit and their jokes they make. It's just, I love it.
Yeah.
I love that character too. He was fucking funny as shit.
He had good timing, he's charming. He's like the character in Airplane, that one guy who's like in the room where he's like saying all this silly stuff or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't know if that humor is offensive or not either. I know a lot of people personally who tend to get freaked out by that, but I don't. And a lot of times when somebody says or does something offensive, I usually don't. I don't know. I don't notice it. Then when I do, I don't
Yeah.
feel offended. So,
And I mean,
yeah.
in real real celebrity, there are like those more flamboyant ones that
Yeah.
are they being offensive? I still find them just as funny. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I've even met real life flamboyant gays like that, and always find them fucking hilarious. So I mean,
Yeah.
how offensive is it if those kind of one get I don't know how to
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it, but they do exist. Obviously, I've met
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
So
And I think it's cool if people enjoy sort of like whether they embrace that side of themselves or like to play that side of themselves up, because they enjoy doing it and it makes them feel good. I mean, I'm fine with whatever people want to do. And yeah, I've met people who acted a lot like the guy in this movie that
yeah.
like, so yeah, even that didn't really bother me. So like as a movie, like, I don't know. I mean, because I looked it up and it did get a lot of bad reviews and stuff, and I
Yeah.
didn't think it was that bad. I mean,
I
I
think
would,
I mean, I didn't look at the reviews, but I know it got bad reviews, and I was like,
yeah,
I don't see why. I thought this was a
yeah,
straight in the line, good family film to watch. Like,
yeah. Like it obviously wasn't like Eddie Murphy's like best work or anything like that, but it definitely
no.
was. But it was definitely better than like Norbit, and it was definitely better than Pluto Nash.
Oh
so,
yeah,
so yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'd probably give it like a 2 to 3, maybe. Like,
yeah.
personally,
I'll stick on 3 for me. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm sticking with 3.
yeah. What do you think of it, Zach?
It was better than I thought it was going to be, that's for sure. But
Yeah,
like you were saying, I was more interested in like Eddie Murphy as the ship, not the goings on in the ship.
mm,
I just
yeah,
found the first 20, 30 minutes, him acting so fucking weird was hilarious.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The hardest I laughed was when he kicked the fucking cat across the room.
That was great.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Banks is just like, "Hey, cat." I don't remember the name, but hey, cat, what are you getting into?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That and when he met her neighbor and he was doing his like bow finger kind of laugh.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
That was funny.
I love that.
That was really funny.
Yeah, just trying to imitate everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think like after the old Navy scene, I kind of lost interest. But
mm,
I mean, as far as family movies go, it's not that bad. But
Yeah.
yeah,
not for me.
yeah.
I gave it like a 1.5, 2.
Yeah, that makes
Fair enough.
sense. Like, I think like it's probably not the type of movie I'd rewatch unless I were with like younger relatives or somebody, be like, hey, this one's kind of fun. Like,
Hmm.
might
I mean-
enjoy this. It's not as good as Inside Out.
Yeah, I mean, then I feel I would watch it again. I would even probably buy it on DVD just to have it.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. Maybe I'd watch it on like an Eddie Murphy marathon or something. I don't know. So,
He's made worse, that's for sure. So,
oh, most definitely. Anything else?
I love Judah Freelander, and he was in it.
Yeah, that was excellent. So,
But yeah, that's about it.
yeah, same. So, okay, so I guess the next film we're going to talk about is the one that I picked, which was made in, I think it was 2009 was what I read.
2008.
Oh, 2008. Okay, 2008. I thought was a horror movie, although it's really more of a horror comedy. Teeth.
Yeah, I didn't really see this. Because it's genre as horror. I didn't really see it as a horror all that much.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be kind of more of a horror movie than it ended up being, So I think if it had been more of a horror movie, it would have actually been more effective. But that's all right,
Yeah.
Whatever. Regardless, so this movie, all right, so I guess maybe some content advisory warnings. This movie is about some rather unfortunate subject matter, so if you enjoyed our Meet Dave review and want to go to bed with pleasant thoughts, I would probably stop watching this video, because this movie is about something that really is like pretty awful, actually. So it's kind of like it's sort of a, I guess, sort of John Waters-esque comedy, I guess. I mean, sort of. That's the only thing I can sort of think of that reminds me of this. About like this girl who's kind of involved in this like a chastity church group. So the movie starts off, she's kind of giving this,
Abstinence.
yeah, like an abstinence Christian church group, where she's kind of at the beginning of the movie, she's talking to a bunch of junior high students about this whole like staying pure before marriage type of thing, and that's kind of like something that she's practicing, which is all well and cool and everything, but then she ends up meeting a guy who ends up being sort of a hottie, and it's like, oh well, shoot, what do I do? And they hang out a bit, they kind of flirt around and stuff, and then eventually they end up sort of isolated together during like a picnic, like a group picnic, and some foreplay happens, but nothing super crazy. And so then they're like, oh, maybe we should stay away from each other, and it's like, oh, but no, I love you and all this stuff. And then eventually, like, they get together again to go swimming, and he pretty much like takes advantage of her, and then it ends up making the unfortunate discovery that she actually has teeth in her vagina, and it bites off his penis.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I was talking with my friends last night because I was doing some gaming, but also I had to watch these movies. I was like, I can't. I got to finish up these movies. They asked me what movie I had to watch next, and I was like, Teeth, and I had no idea what it was. And
Yeah.
and then one of my friends was like, "Oh, what's that?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't know." But my other two friends chimed up and was like, "Oh, it's that movie with the teeth in the vagina." And I've heard of that movie. I didn't know the name of it, but I've heard of the movie where there's a girl with vagina teeth.
Okay. Yeah, well, it was this one. So.
And one of my other friends who's more of a movie buff too, but he likes weird shit. So he was like, "Yeah, it's also more of a commentary on uh can't use the R word really in YouTube, sexual predatory culture."
Right.
But I found this film to be more of a commentary on the whole abstinence, shame on sex kind of, like you're being shameful of sex kind of commentary, rather than there is of course sexual abuse that does happen in it, but
Yeah, there is a little bit. It
A
does
little, but
explore it a little
I
bit.
definitely thought it was more of the whole poor sex education in America type. Abstinence is the way to go when it's been proven not to be that way.
Right.
Where actual good
Yeah.
sexual education and protection and teaching kids how to deal with these things is the better way to do it, not just say no sex, because that the tropes of repressed kind of church going girls
Yes.
growing up go crazy in college. That's kind of just a thing, not even just sexually, like people that are forbidden with food go crazy once they're out of their home and get all obese, and drugs, same thing,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's true. I mean, like, it's better to educate rather than to just like say they like to than to ban it altogether, because the first instinct is to just indulge
mm-hmm.
if you've been like barred from it, or if it's become a like a forbidden thing or a taboo.
Yeah,
And so yeah, like I would actually have to agree, because a lot of the like sexual assault scenarios that this movie is kind of delving into and like sort of bringing up and depicting have a lot to do with like repression.
I would
Which
say like most of it. Yeah,
yeah, like, and that is something that actually does happen in this world, is that a lot of that people who come from like a repressive culture or who are like sexually repressed end up being the people who end up abusing others a lot of the
yeah,
time. So the film actually does kind of like bring that concept up, and it does kind of take it seriously to a point. I mean, it is a comedy and it is trying to kind of explore it on a more satiric level, but it does sort of depict it in a semi-realistic way. Maybe not like maybe in a slightly exaggerated way, but
I
you
didn't
get the
laugh
general gist
I
of
mean,
it.
I didn't really laugh during this movie. I didn't see it
Oh,
as
you didn't?
too much of a comedy. No,
Yeah.
I
I
thought it
mean,
was
maybe,
definitely interesting though, but like,
yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, because after the inciting sort of incident, which is the one I sort of just went over, where
well, there
the
is also the first scene of the main girl, and like it sets it up as uh the parents are dating.
oh yeah,
The mother has a daughter, the father has a son, and the
yes,
son's a little perv and sticks his finger apparently in it. Well, and they're like what, 6 7 years old, four, the girl maybe, and it gets bitten, like his fingertip gets bitten,
yeah,
and that's where it starts off.
okay,
And
yeah,
it's also like kind of a nuclear like not like it's suggested, I'm assuming, because like their house, right behind their house, is just two nuclear power plants.
They show
yeah.
that many times.
Yeah, so you just assume it had to do with them getting radiation poisoning, and that's why
I
she
mean,
grew it. I don't know.
that's what I assume, like, um, but yeah, I mean, I think that like they they definitely, I mean, they definitely made a lot of like various little indications, and I think that yeah, the whole situation with the brother, because that kind of takes some pretty intense turns,
Yeah,
as the film goes on, but
and and what's funny is like the first notes I wrote down was like, oh, um, Dawn, her name seems, I don't know, damaged or suppressed or whatever, and mine was, oh, Brad seems like a psycho. And then like one of the first little things when you go into his room, he has a sign on his door is "I am not a psycho." It's like, oh, all right, well, okay.
yeah, well, and then also like once the family tragedy thing kind of occurs, because like which character, um it was after the first guy, or wait, no, not after the first guy, whichever guy, because there's a few people who get mutilated by her dentata. um because okay, so she goes to the doctor and he gets his fingers bitten off. That was pretty funny.
That was after. So yeah, the
Yeah,
after she bites off that one dude that tries to assault her.
Yeah.
He just had there was a funny line I laughed at. I haven't jerked off since Easter.
Yeah.
That was his reasoning.
That was funny. Actually, this girl, like, there's a few different characters in this movie that try to assault her. Like, I guess I don't know. It's just kind of intense. Like kind of to maybe that was trying to be sort of an exploration of something too. Just like the fact that like all these men that she runs into try to attack her. Or maybe it's just because every character in this movie sucks. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah, and I did one thing I noticed too that I just maybe picked up on was like the Brad character, her brother had a girlfriend, and
mm,
it kind of alluded to that they didn't have vaginal sex ever. It seemed like they were just doing butt stuff and mouth stuff.
yeah.
Like they were like you could hear them arguing in the background, like
Well,
kind of. But
that's something that actually, and I didn't realize this for a while, but that actually is something that exists in like a lot of like abstinence only type of cultures and stuff. Is that like a lot of these girls who declared themselves abstinent, apparently, like, it's some of these girls still like do like basically other things that aren't like, basically what they mean by abstinence is like only vaginal, is what some girls, I guess, in some circles get the impression of. And so like I feel like there is
yeah,
some kind of truth to that idea too.
but the thing was that
It's
it was more
kind of
of,
shed light on.
I think it was more of because the brother, I think, was just scared after being traumatized by the
Yeah.
first scene, because his girlfriend was all for, she wasn't in the abstinence crew. She was, but
Yeah.
she didn't want to do the butt stuff and mouth stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He was like fixated on that, but he didn't know why. And then
Yeah.
it turned out that it was a repressed memory that unfortunately he ends up remembering at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so the film goes into that kind of territory. But but the thing that I thought was interesting though about this movie was when she started kind of using it as a weapon. Like once she started kind of turning it around and being like, oh, this dentata can be useful to me, like, I don't know, that's kind of when the film was like, I mean, I could imagine that it could have been really an effective horror film if they had actually played it straight and sort of done it that way, and like have her be like this person who's like getting revenge and sleeping around and like mutilating these men. I think that would have made it like more interesting, but instead they kind of play it safe, in my opinion, and kind of keep it, well, I mean, for lack of a better word, maybe not safe, but like, I don't know, there's not that many characters in it. It's kind of
Yeah.
just her and then a bunch of douchebags that she ends
Yeah.
up
I got
fighting.
yeah. I got some like It Follows kind of vibes of sexual type things, but not
Yeah.
as well done, I guess.
Yeah. Well, like, I think because It Follows is the way that that film sort of depicted it was so much more minimal
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot more
Vagina
metaphor.
teeth.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess like with this movie Cheat, because I think of the plot and about this woman who has teeth in her vagina, and I can think of a really savage concept, like a really savage film being made out of such a concept. And so, but I don't really mind the fact that this movie kind of played it a little bit differently than I expected. Like I in a way, I kind of appreciated the fact that they even tried to sort of elicit humor out of such a drastic concept, So, and I looked at it, and it turns out it was directed by a gay man, and I have to be honest, that doesn't surprise me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, I know we all hear about feminists who hate men, but man, some of the people I know who hate men the most are gay men. Like, but anyway, I thought this was an interesting movie overall. The ending
Yeah.
was kind of funny when she gets picked up by that creepy old guy.
Oh, he was so
God.
fucking weird, sticking his tongue out like fucking.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, wow, this is subtle.
Yeah, and then like the last little fucking frames were her just looking at him doing that whatever
Mm.
femme
Yeah.
fatale like look, like I'm gonna kill you now.
Yeah, you're mine. Yeah.
All right, this is like she tried to get out, but he locked the doors. Like, all right,
Yeah.
this is your death sentence then. Bye.
But seriously though, picture this movie not being a comedy. Like picture it being more like Miss 45. Like being really serious and having this girl like
Mhm.
just sleep around and with people, maybe they're like innocent men or whatever. Like I don't know, I could imagine that movie being pretty scary.
Yep.
So
I thought it should have been either really serious, like you were saying, or really fucking campy.
yeah.
Yeah, they kind of tried to straddle the line.
Yeah, which I don't know. And it ended up resulting in kind of it not really doing enough in either category. But I don't know. Maybe the premise and the ingenuity of it is enough to. I mean, maybe that would be enough for some viewers to get a kick out of it. I mean,
Yeah. I this is I think the first one my wife watched with me. She thought it was hilarious.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I enjoyed it. I actually found it quite funny. And I
I
would
found it
definitely watch
interesting. I
Yeah.
definitely found it interesting more than funny.
Yeah. I
Like,
I
because one of the things I hate about like health class that was taught was like the abstinence is the best way, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing to teach. And
yeah.
it was totally cult like because after she killed the first guy, she was had to do another speech, and she was it was like kind of dreamlike of like they were all chanting this cult like stuff instead of like the first time she did it was like, oh, more uplifting, like, yeah, this is good. But then when she came back and started fucking up because she realized she killed a dude and couldn't do this speech, they were all like
Yes.
kind of shaming her because she kind of let out that I am no longer a virgin. So they
Yeah.
kind of shamed her with like a chant, and like it was like very cult feeling.
Yes. Yes. Agreed. And yeah, I I do remember that was a major downside of health class is having to listen to propaganda.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a bummer that like I mean, I get why, like because to a certain degree because like they a lot of people are really like concerned about like sex and all that, but it's just such a dangerous method really to scare people away from sex altogether. Just I don't know, like it just doesn't ever really seem to amount to anything positive. So
And what confused me too a little bit was how it worked really. Like she could like the first time she did it with that guy that she thought like, so it's like, was it a nuclear reaction thing, or because she looked it up and it was like, I don't know, mythological, back to the Greeks, Egyptians, a bunch of Native American, all these different things. Like, oh, is it mythical or is it fucking a nuclear mutation? I don't know. And then like, so she does it with this other another nice seeming guy, and it first doesn't bite his dick off, but
yeah,
then,
and
but
she actually has a normal sex experience with him.
yeah,
Well,
because
normal all things
because
considered.
yeah, because it seems like, oh, he's actually being nice and caring and not trying to take advantage of me, even though he gave her drugs and fucking alcohol and
Yeah,
messed with her a little bit. But she seemed, when it actually was going down, she accepted it and didn't bite his dick off.
right.
Next morning they do a little, love again, and his friend calls and says, oh, I'm doing it right now, and it's a bet. It was like, it turned out to be a bet that, so he turned out to be a scumbag, and then his dick got bit off.
Yeah, which
And
which is an impressively disturbing scene.
Yeah. And that's when she started turning into, the killer.
Yeah, that's when she went after her brother.
Yeah, and again, this is also confusing on how it works. Was she went into the doctor's office, which, I mean, I've never had a gynecological exam, but like if
Neither have I.
but if
No.
we're saying like if you can have consensual type sex and it not bite dicks off, going like I don't necessarily know if the doctor was doing anything untoward. He was hurting her a bit, but I could see that kind of procedure hurting if given different bodies and whatnot. His
Yeah.
hands get chopped out or his fingers get bitten.
Yeah.
And there was like there was like something like it was something again I was writing, the whole theme that I was thinking of was like the abstinence teaching being the only way, but this came in with the science. It was like the guy said, like the doctor said, when he was about to check her out, in this room there is no judgment, no judgments made, and like she seemed assured, like she gave that, oh, okay, thank you, yes, that's good to hear. And then
Yeah.
so it was like, oh yes, so we're giving a nice little point to science being the way of getting things done and the right way to teach children about sex. But then
Yeah.
it gets fucking bit off. Like, okay, well, that message just went out the window. I don't know why you did that.
Well, that's kind of why I sort of like, I guess that's kind of why I compare it to a John Waters comedy, because what he does is he kind of makes fun of everybody, which like it's kind of become a more popular method of comedy, is to just sort of make fun of everybody. And it's something I know that like Matt Stone and Trey Parker, for example, do with their comedy, is they like, that they kind of show everybody on all sides as being total maniacs, and chooses to do that, and
Yeah.
but then they use it to show an underlying point, whereas this movie like doesn't really do that.
And the doc, it was kind of wildly he was like flying around with his hand in the vagina, like going all over
Yeah.
the place, like
Yeah. And that guy, that actor, I've seen him in something else and I don't know what he was in, but he played a doctor in whatever else I'd seen him in, and I think that actor just exists just to play doctors. That's my guess. Let's see. And then okay, so then the thing with her brother, so he ends up getting his dick bitten off.
Yes,
and then
because he
Oh,
basically
yeah.
let his mom or her mom die while he was
Yes.
so she wanted some revenge.
Yeah, because he let their mom die, and like he was like with that girl and was like, no,
Ignore
she
her,
was
she does
dying,
this all the time.
yeah, which was like, oh man. So Dawn wanted revenge, and so she bites her brother's dick off, and then she runs away from home,
The
backpacking.
dog eats his dick.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And he has a Prince Albert too.
Yeah. Which is like, okay, of course he would. Like he tries to get his dog to attack her, and instead it picks up his genitals.
Eats it and spits out the ring.
Yeah. And so then in the last scene, she's wearing a backpack, gets picked up by a pervert, and then she smiles because she's gonna, she's got a secret that he doesn't know about, that we know about, and
Yep.
then the movie ends.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Teeth. I liked it. I mean, it was it was pretty out there at times, but it was an enjoyable sort of movie, at least in that vein of being like, I don't know, it was about as entertaining as a movie about a killer vagina, I guess, can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. yeah, I'd give it like a 3. I mean, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'd go right down the middle, 2.5 probably.
mm,
Yeah, 2.5.
yeah. Yeah. Pretty solid little dark comedy with some I mean, I don't know. I gotta admit, like the scenes where the scenes where like it actually bit the guy's dicks off. Like, I mean, I was expecting those scenes to be really cringeworthy and really painful, but they were actually like more funny than they were like. I mean, they were painful. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I actually thought the actual like moments themselves like were pretty funny. So. All right. Anything else? Anything you guys want to say about teeth?
No, pretty much it.
All right, cool. All right. So now we shall talk about your choice, Zach.
Yeah. My choice was Blood Gnome.
Yeah, this one is definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Like the first few frames, I just said audibly, "Oh no," because just from the quality and I got major Things vibe. even though it was not at all after that, but it just like
Right.
you could feel how cheesy. Like I was surprised it was a 2004 film. It felt real old.
Yeah.
Even though like it looked old, I should say, it was still had internet and shit in it. So
Yeah.
Yes. Shot on video.
Yeah.
in the streets of LA, in people's apartments in LA.
It definitely had like that cheap stolen camcorder vibe.
Yeah.
Yep. Everything was just like all fucking close up.
Yep.
Like there was just one scene where like they were doing like a little Dutch angle, and it was like there was literally like they were at a crime scene, and the police tape was literally on the fucking ceiling.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I get like what?
Yeah. Like if you're the type of person who's when they watch a movie, your bare minimum requirement is that it has lighting. You're not gonna like this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, if I knew this was shot on video, I wouldn't have picked it.
I mean, I can watch a shot on video. I mean, I have a pretty high tolerance for garbage at this point. So I mean,
It really for shot on video, it really depends on me.
Yeah.
Me. But
Oh yeah.
I mean, this one wasn't the worst I've seen, but
yeah, it's definitely not the worst I've seen either. Well, but anyway, I don't know. Is there a plot summary?
There's not. That's not.
Okay.
I had to take a lot of notes.
All right.
Nice.
Good. Okay. So, yeah.
So the first scene, this dude is a drug dealer, goes to his supplier's warehouse, can't see her right in front of him, which I thought was hilarious.
That was funny. It's like, that's a bad drug deal.
Yeah. Like, where are you? And she's like 5 feet away.
Yeah. That's when you run.
Yeah. She goes to get his supply, and he sees a light from a box, goes over to it, and gets grabbed by tentacles.
Yeah. Yeah, that was excellent.
Yeah, and then lady pulls him away, tells him to forget what he saw, and then to not sell to the BDSM community.
Yeah. So
this is pretty much the whole. I don't understand the whole against the BDSM community plot, but it's there.
This movie ends up. Yeah, this movie basically ends up being a film all about BDSM, and the BDSM community, which is not quite what I expected from a horror movie called Blood Gnome, but it's there.
And the thing was, like, her goal was to kill people with these gnomes and shit, why would she not want to sell to the BDSM community if that's their main source of food? Why would she tell them not to? I would assume she would say these are for BDSM people. Sell them to those guys.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there were a lot of things about this movie that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, so the main guy, I actually thought the main character was pretty creepy. Like, he was, and actually, doesn't the film sort of establish early on that he has like a lot of like mental problems, and like he was like institutionalized because
There was some
his
backstory with he came to a crime scene and it was his wife that he didn't recognize at first somehow.
that was it. So his wife, so he's married, and then his wife decides to leave him for some other dude, and then whoever that other dude was went crazy and killed her, and then he ends up coming across her crime scene, like
it was a murder suicide.
Yeah. And that's it. And then it drives him insane, and he has to be institutionalized. And so that's kind of like the backstory of this movie, I guess, or the backstory of the main plot, is that like this is like the first sort of thing that this guy is doing since being institutionalized, I think is kind of what they said. Yeah. So that's kind of, it's like, ooh, oh, well, we're in trouble now. I mean,
and you don't find that out till way later, but they sprinkle it in throughout.
Yeah, you find it out pretty darn late, actually.
That should have like just been the opening of the movie, but
yeah,
if that was that much of a plot point, but it really wasn't. So
yeah, it's pretty vague.
So you get this dude going to his first crime scene, and he has a infrared camera that can magically see through clothes. Apparently, got that whole weird scene.
Yeah, although I will admit, I thought I did like the scene where he was like pointing the camera around the room, and those little gnome things were on the viewfinder, like, or not on the view, on the screen on the camera. I thought that was kind of cool. Like, I mean, it was like I don't know, it was kind of creepy, actually, in my opinion, in like a weird, cheap sort of way. I don't know, something about that just kind of wigged me out. I mean, I can, it's obvious how they did it, but still, like I don't know, there's something about that moment that actually did kind of creep me out a little bit. I have to admit.
Yeah.
Strange. So.
Yeah. So the camera gets broken. That's how we can see these invisible gnomes.
Yeah.
I don't get why they're invisible, but okay, let's just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't understand that either.
Well, the opening credits basically shows their first kill, and then they're targeting BDSM people again.
Yeah.
It happens a few. What?
Isn't there like some like lady who, because like they're like giving birth and it's like all slimy and gross, and then she like takes a needle and like puts it into like a pill or something because she's like a drug dealer.
Like the placenta of those things, I guess, is the drug that she's giving.
Yeah, I didn't really know what she was putting in there, but
yeah, I couldn't figure that out either. So
yeah, I guess that happens a few more times. More BDSM people get murdered by these gnomes, and he sees little bits of them. People think he's crazy because his whole wife thing.
Yeah, I mean, they have a point.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not trying to like discredit the guy, but I mean, and he is kind of creepy though. Like, that's the thing. They do kind of play him as sort of an oddball still. Like, he's like throughout the whole movie, he's grinning. Like, he's like Like he's like looking around these crime scenes and grinning like he's like the happiest person in the world. And it's like,
Right.
what's going on there? Like what's up with the smiley Sam look? Like it's just weird. I don't know. And so I thought that they were trying to kind of imply that he was still sort of mentally broken, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe not that much thought was put into this movie. Like I could be wrong.
Doesn't seem like it.
No. It seemed like the director just had like a BDSM repressed fetish.
Yeah, maybe. You know, which it's
Yeah.
an interesting idea though for a horror movie in a way, because like I don't know, like it's the concept. So like in a way this movie kind of reminded me of like Cruising a little bit, or like a movie like that about like a private investigator who has to sort of go undercover in like an alternative community and stuff to try and like solve a case, except this is like a supernatural movie about demonic invisible creatures, so it's kind of not really the same thing at all, but it's kind of interesting that they took that approach with it.
Yeah. And you got a subplot of him learning the BDSM community, that they're different kinks or whatever,
Yeah.
and falling for this one girl.
Yeah. Which again, it's yet another movie. We've watched a lot of these on this show now. It's yet another movie that really did not need a love story.
Yeah. I mean, basically, more of these murders happen. They go after him. The main drug supplier lady
Yeah.
is birthing these gnomes from the mother gnome.
Pretty much, yeah.
And
Doesn't matter where it came from. Just
yeah,
yeah.
eventually catches onto him, kidnaps his new girlfriend, which
Yeah.
I don't know. That was all of a sudden they were a thing.
Yeah, I didn't. It was quick.
That was so stupid.
Yeah.
I
And
was
then
like, okay.
another thing is like, why is a crime scene photographer trying to solve the case?
That was something I was trying to figure out.
Know. Yeah, I don't know.
Like they were criticizing him for not taking good enough photographs or whatever. Like it's like you're supposed to put a ruler down so that we know how big, you know, the wounds are or whatever they said. I don't remember exactly. Which
Just
it's like
the
doesn't really
little
matter.
handprint.
No, yeah, the
Yeah.
handprint. Yeah.
Which although I will say the makeup and the gore was plentiful.
Yeah. And then the gnomes themselves look like something out of a full moon production.
I love the gnomes. The gnomes were actually like pretty charming, I thought. Like I was like, okay, all right. Like they weren't really all that scary. They were kind of more silly than they were scary. But
Yeah.
I was into the design though. I was like, oh, they're, you know, like they're kind of fat little critters, you know.
And at times you could see the puppeteers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Lots of, you know, puppet themes.
Yeah, I mean, not much happens in the middle there.
Yeah, it's pretty repetitive actually. It's pretty much just like S&M sex scenes, then like some gore,
Gnomes murdering people.
Yeah, lots of like slow motion shots, lots of shots of like women taking their tops off, lots of nudity. I mean, yeah, it's kind of just a lot of death scenes.
Yeah.
Involving invisible gremlins or gnomes.
Yeah.
And then eventually the story ends.
Yeah, and they the gnomes somehow know how to use the internet. Start chatting with them in a chat room.
They're apparently pretty smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go all to catch a predator on the main character. They're like, we know you can't resist or whatever. Like they do their weird thing. and they have like literal screen names too. Like it's like
Yeah,
no, like Blood Gnome something or whatever. Like,
something
it's like,
like
oh,
that.
that's funny. Yeah, and so they end up entrapping him, and or no, they end up getting in touch with him, and then he ends up following them, and then it ends up being about like him like being stuck in this situation with them or whatever, and then it's like then it kind of just ends up going in the direction it does. Like
Yeah, they end up at
the
this big sex party.
yeah,
Where like Julie Strain is randomly there.
yeah, R.I.P. Julie Strain.
Yeah.
You know, very, very in my opinion, you know, was a very likable presence in a lot of not so good movies. And this is one of them.
Yep.
But she is there, and it's kind of cool, you know. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and then just pull up this notes. Sorry, they're on my phone and they keep going away.
Yeah, no worries. It's all good. You know, there's not really a whole lot to say about Blood Gnome. I mean,
No, they kidnap his girl. He gets her back,
yeah,
kills a bunch of gnomes, and then
hilariously.
yeah.
Yeah, and he's able to see them too because at his house,
yeah.
he fought them
Yeah.
off and I guess drank the blood because he like bit the hand,
Yeah,
got some blood. I think that's how he was able to see him eventually.
he got magic powers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, ooh. I mean, they gotta have something happen in this movie. You know?
Yeah. And then they try to kill the mother gnome, but it escapes somehow. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sequel.
Oh, sequel, Blood Gnome Part 2.
I'd watch it.
Oh, me too. In a heartbeat.
And the escape of the thing was so fucking funny because it was
Yeah.
the worst CGI tunnel. It was
It was,
like
it
So
was
bad.
terrible. Yeah.
so bad.
Well, I mean, it was garbage, but I still liked it. I gotta be honest. I mean, like, there's just something about the like, the movies like this they just, to me, there's just a certain quality to them that it's just irresistible. Like, I mean, I know, like, it's not good. You know, I know it's really terribly shot. The acting's trash, you know, but
The writing's
like
trash. The lighting's
everything's trash.
trash. The
But
sound's trash.
but I love the ambition. I love I actually did enjoy some of the weird mood. Like I like how certain some of the scenes, like some of the scenes when they're investigating the crime scenes, and literally the only light that there is just like a freaking flashlight, and you can barely tell what's going on. But certain moments here and there with like in those scenes with the music and just like there's just a certain aspect to that kind of thing that I really enjoy, I have to admit. And so like watching this, and I also I did like the fact that it was kind of it was kind of taking the BDSM like lifestyle like more seriously than a lot of movies tend to. Like with a lot of films tend to kind of sort of show them as kind of being weird and like little more than just kind of like a joke. And this movie actually did try to sort of stay a little bit more true to that side of things and didn't really depict it as like something that was inherently ugly. So I do appreciate that. I don't know. I mean, it was bad, but I still liked it, I guess.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
had a decent time with it.
yeah. But I don't know. I could also see how it wouldn't be for everybody.
No, I didn't like it.
Yeah, that's okay. Do you want to kind of sort of summarize your overall thoughts on it, or?
I just don't like that kind of. It was just like grimy, kind of, you know.
It was wicked grimy.
And I'm not a fan of the fan of the cheap. I don't necessarily like the cheap kind of. I mean, some VHS or video shot shit's fine, but this one didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know, didn't work well, and I do feel like this was a director's kind of wanting to get his king, like his thing off on BDSM without actually, going into it. I don't know.
Yeah, like he wanted to kind of disguise it as a horror movie. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I kind of get that impression from some films. Like when I watch a film that sort of delves a little bit too into a particular topic or theme, or seems a little bit too fixated on certain things when like the plot is about something totally different. Like there's a particular Spike Lee movie that does that, which I'm not going to elaborate on, but but that's an example of like even a professional filmmaker does that sort of thing,
Mhm.
where
Oh yeah.
where like they make a film presenting it as one kind of movie, but are actually kind of doing something a little bit more secretive and subliminal with it. So I feel like this film was probably like a failed example of that sort of thing, like a really failed example, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, anything else? Or...
I did notice in the detective's kitchen, he had 2 microwaves.
Oh yeah.
Just stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, what was that all about? I wondered about what was that. Yeah, I don't quite.
And also the detective pillowcase. I had those pillowcases before in my life.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know if you noticed them, but they stood out to me because, oh shit, I had those pillowcases. They're like white with just like flowers on them and shit.
Oh yeah.
I
Don't
had
you
those.
just?
Oh fuck.
Oh my god, I love it when I watch a movie and I recognize a piece of furniture that
Yeah.
I've either had, that I either have or I have had or know somebody who has. Like I like that always excites me when I see that sort of thing. Happens a lot in 80s movies for some reason. Like that, I don't know, that might be a bad thing. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on it, Zach?
It was okay. I mean, I had a decent time with it. I'm really picky when it comes to shot on video.
Yeah.
But I gave it a 1.5.
Yeah. That's
Oh.
okay.
I'll give it a 1.
Yeah. 1 for the boobs, right?
Yeah.
I think I would give this movie like I think I'd give it a 2, honestly. I actually really did enjoy it. It was grimy and gross and smelly, and it's like this is about like stuff that, like this is a movie that's digging into the soil of human nature, which is like not necessarily a movie that you want to watch if you want to have a good time. But I like the gore. I liked the moments that did creep me out, which were few and far between, and they mostly just creeped me out because of how freaking cheap the movie was. And yeah, I mean, it was odd enough that I got through it okay without like screaming at the television too much. I mean, that's kind of how I rate movies nowadays. Like, am I yelling at the TV but like throughout? If I'm not, then it's probably doing something right. But I don't know. I could certainly see why. This isn't a movie that I'd be like, oh, Blood Gnome is. I love that one. That was a great one. I wouldn't be like if somebody asked me whether Blood Gnome was good or not, I'd be like, no, it's not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It was weird enough that I dug it. So
Yeah.
all right, cool. So I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Excellent. So it was an emotional episode. We talked about everything from space aliens to vagina dentata to BDSM. But I think we got through it relatively unscathed and all in one piece. So
Yeah.
So do you guys want to pick movies for the next time?
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Well, by all means, I'm still kind of deciding on a couple.
Okay. I'll go with mine. Mutant Chronicles.
Okay, Mutant Chronicles. I like that title.
Heard of that one. I haven't seen it yet.
Cool. All right, Mutant Chronicles. I like that.
Mine, when I looked through lists on Letterboxd, I
Yeah.
found a lot of Japanese stuff. So I'm gonna go with a
Oh, okay.
Japanese one. I'm gonna go with shit. Now I forget what it's called. Tokyo Gore Police.
Excellent. All right, Tokyo Gore Police, Mutant Chronicles. All right. I'm gonna go with something that's radically different from what you two have chosen. It's a Gary Busey movie called Quigley.
All right.
All right. Have you guys heard of that one?
I'm not sure if
No.
I've heard of it.
Oh, wait till I send you the poster. Because I don't know anything about this movie, but I was sold on the poster alone.
Oh, nice.
And the only thing I do know one thing, it is a Christian movie. So
Oh boy.
So,
All right.
and I believe it's a family movie too. So, but I'll send you what the poster looks like, and you guys can decide for yourselves. You know, whether you think it looks appealing or not. But it doesn't really matter because we're gonna watch it anyway. All right, cool. So yeah, I guess that concludes tonight's episode of a couple of flicks. So yeah. So have a good night, everybody, and stay safe.
Yeah. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.